Welcome to episode 74 of the PuckPod by BD Sports. You've got me, Christian here, and Dave. Let's start with our week, Dave. I don't know if it's even has it been a week? Well, it has been a week
Well, it's
because we
been
were
over a
supposed to
week,
do
yeah.
Sunday. It's been over a week.
Yeah.
How has your over a week been, Dave?
Dude, honestly, I wouldn't be. I honestly can't even tell you. We went back to school. School's been already gonna start taking up most of our lives. But that's fine because it allows me to watch. It gives me a good excuse to watch sports. And I pulled that excuse over the past couple of days, like where I'm just like, I can't really like do this. I'm watching the NHL playoffs, or maybe I was watching the NBA playoffs. It's good, definitely a good excuse. So I don't hate it, but it is definitely time consuming. I'll leave it like that.
I definitely pulled that same card on Sunday. Was out for Mother's Day or like over at my grandparents' house for Mother's Day, and then all the guys we just get up from the dinner table. We're like, okay, we're gonna go over to watch sports. Half of us will fall asleep, half of us will watch the game. It's a classic excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy
What
belated
side were
Mother's
you
Day
on?
to I was honestly I was in and out. Like I started watching the beginning of that. It would have been Florida Boston, and that was right after the Bennett thing, right? So that was like
Hmm.
that was must watch. I probably
Yeah.
dozed off a little bit later though.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
food coma, right?
Food coma. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Happy
happy belated
belated.
Mother's Day.
For
Yeah,
sure. For
to
real.
listeners and their moms. And the only other thing I can think of, Dave, is on Monday, like you said, going back to school and the crazy journey that
Oh,
we had. I
man.
don't want to go into it too far because it's awful.
We could
But
we could honestly do a whole podcast just
yeah,
on like the TTC. We'll name them all right. The TTC and their
I
shitty
there's no
service.
alternative. Like yeah,
Yeah, that's the problem is
the
that
other subway. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
we don't
there's
have
no
an
other subway.
alternative. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Long story short, TTC. Jesus Christ, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've already committed to at least an hour and a half, let's say, like from home to where we need to be at school. Probably
Yeah,
takes about an hour and a half. Like, I
both ways.
think,
So times two, 3 hours worth of commute per day.
yeah, dude, I think what was it? I think we were up to two and a half either way, may probably more. I
Yeah,
got home at about 6:45 on Monday. We normally
yeah,
get home at about set 5:30. Like the
yeah,
difference, I know you weren't feeling 100% to come in today. Going in between yesterday and today was like night and day. It was like an hour 15 that like extra that we were on multiple different forms of public transit. It was just awful. Like just awful. It's so crazy because there's three stops in this city, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. If one of those three stops has an incident at them, and this time it wasn't even one of those stops in particular, but it was in close proximity to one of those stops, your whole day is going to be ruined. Like there is no getting
yeah.
away from it.
If you were living under a rock, basically what happened was there was a hydraulic fluid spilled in overnight work on the tracks, and that took from 8 a.m. to I couldn't even tell you when they fixed
Do you
it.
know what time it
Beginning like
was?
it was
I saw the update because I checked this morning to see if
yeah,
I was just gonna skip today. Full disclosure, if there was
yeah.
still a closure, I was just gonna skip. I believe at 9 p.m. last night was when the service
Wow.
resumed. So a full 12 hours,
Yeah,
over 12
that's
hours.
crazy. That's crazy.
For
So
yeah,
TTC in shambles on that day. Yeah, my shoulder has been in shambles like you alluded to. I have no idea what the hell I did. I literally it's such a stupid thing to say is I injured my shoulder in my sleep. Like,
yeah,
oh, that sounds great. That's wow, that's real tough of you to you got beat up by your bed. Okay.
yeah.
I got put into submission by my bed. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but TTC in shambles, my shoulder in shambles. Leafs, I don't know. We're going to talk about how much shambles they're in after their press conference, their end of season press conference from management. We heard from Keith Pelley, Brendan Shanahan, Brad Treliving. I think we break them down one by one, and then we can do a whole wrap up on what we thought of it as a whole.
Yep.
Keith Pelley, new CEO of MLSE, opened up this press conference. What did you think of his opening remarks and just first impressions on him as a whole?
Um Well, I could see why a lot of people spoke very highly of him. So for those that don't know who Keith Pelley is, he was a top executive at TSN, I believe, for quite a while. He worked his way up at TSN, and eventually got a top job there. He was I didn't know this. He was almost like he was a part of the process when actually, sorry, he was at Sportsnet. He was a part of the process that brought the NHL to Sportsnet. He was at both companies, if I'm not mistaken. But he was instrumental in bringing the NHL to Sportsnet for their exclusive deal, which I believe comes up in a couple of years. So this is about 10 years ago that he was there, but he was definitely instrumental in what he had done there. He had then moved over. I don't know for what reason or why, but he had then moved over to the PGA Tour in Europe, which would be is that not like the Ryder Cup and all that type of stuff? Like he kind of revolutionized the PGA Tour in Europe. Like he did
Yeah.
great things for them, basically.
Official title, president of the PGA European Tour. That was his
Yeah,
title there.
awesome. It just
Yeah.
it kind of seems like wherever he goes, um, things like things follow him. So now
Yeah, you were gonna say good things,
I
but
don't
they're
know if it's
things.
always fully good things because he
Yeah.
had like you could definitely see the improvement. I'm not a big PGA guy, but I at the very least like can respect what I've heard about him and what he's done for that organization. They only speak good things about him. I've also heard like I just brought it up before, the Rogers on Sportsnet deal. Now,
Yeah.
we might not always share the same thought about, oh, actually, we share the same thought about Sportsnet, me and you, where sometimes it kind of does feel a little lackluster on there, the coverage, but he did like that was a lot of money that they had to shell out for that type of deal. For better or for worse, for the bottom line of Sportsnet, I don't know, but at the very least, he was a big power player in that deal getting
Was about to
brokered,
say we're
basically.
gonna put him on the Leafs power play. He's a good power play
Yeah,
player.
yeah, maybe. We've
I just want to back up and fill in the rest of his resume because it is an interesting one. President at TSN, then team president of the Argos, and
mm,
CEO of Rogers Media. So that was the Sportsnet connection, right? So before doing European PGA European Tour, serving as president. So it's a hefty resume, and yet he finds himself back where he started, right? And he talked about that off the top. He's like, what brought me back here is wanting to win, right? And honestly, he kind of specified, I don't know if he's going to do this like for the Raptors or anyone else, but it sounded like he was very specific about the Leafs, wanting to win with the Leafs. I thought that was something I kind of got out of it. But okay, let's talk about, do you think he has a good read on the market? Do you think he did well to connect with fans and kind of understand where the fan base is at with this team right now? Do you think he did a good job at that?
so does he have a good read on the fan base? I would say he does. And that's not even just like coming in and seeing what it's like. You know, he took over in his position April 1st. If you had come in blind knowledge like on that day and you see like the run up to the playoffs and then going through the playoff motions and the reactions to the playoffs, for sure you can definitely gauge the temperature of the fan base. But Keith is in a very I want to say precarious predicament. Like he knows this fan base as well as anybody because he was the head of the rights holder for two separate
Yeah,
companies, right? Like he was
yeah.
at the top there. I think, I don't know if he is the most qualified man for the job, but at the very least, I'm pretty confident in saying that he is somebody who at least understands the frustrations of mediocrity, right?
So
It doesn't seem like he's the type of guy to also stand for that type of
yeah,
mediocrity as well. Like those were the words that's what I
yeah,
took out of a lot of his
yeah.
speech.
So counterpoint here, and this is stuff that he also kind of said. He has, I agree with what you're saying. He does understand some of the frustration of his fan base, but could you also make a distinction between not the old Leafs fan base and new Leafs fan base, because it is still the same, but he hasn't been in Toronto for 9 years. He hasn't been in tune with the sports landscape of Toronto for 9 years. A lot has changed over that time, specifically with this team. It basically coincides with their entire rebranding, this entire core, right? It's been 8 years, right? So he's
Mm-hmm.
been
100%.
gone for the entirety of that, and I think you can draw a very clean line between the before times and the
Yep.
after times, right?
100%.
To the point that they changed the logo and everything. And he says, he's like, I've been gone for 9 years, but he also said, I do know this is a passionate fan base. And that still holds true no matter when you're talking about a Leafs fan base, right?
Yeah, so then to that point as well, actually, I think that's a fair point because he brought up a team in his press conference that it made me kind of cringe. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it made me cringe just because of my allegiances to other teams, and that is Liverpool FC out in England. I think if I'm not mistaken, the story is that he moved over, like he's in England, he's been based out of England, I believe near Liverpool. Where does the Ryder Cup take place? Is it not near the Liverpool area? While you
I
look that,
want to say
because
it
I know you're looking that
moves
up.
around.
I
Yeah.
want to say I want to say yes, but I'm not too sure. But he did bring up Liverpool, and Liverpool is historically one of England's most historic teams who coincidentally, when he went over there, were on pretty hard times. Like they had not won a thing in in the 15 years before that. And it wasn't until they decided that they needed their own rebrand. And it kicked off with this German manager that they got named Jurgen Klopp, who brought this what they called it in Liverpool, like hair metal style of football. So constant pressing, every game it would seemingly finish like a 3-2 win in Liverpool's favor. It was like there was just goals galore. It was electric every single game because they were able to rebranded their philosophy, the way that they thought about players and personnel before. I think it was 2015 that they hired him, and he is currently leaving at the end of the season, which will be in a couple of weeks. Between the two, it's been like literally night and day. So I don't think not bringing up that example in his press conference, like I think he brought that up for a reason. He wants to, I'm hoping, I would love to see it, but he would like to resurrect this team that's kind of, the fan base, for as passionate as we are, it's starting to feel like a lot of people are becoming a little bit more apathetic towards them. Do you kind of get that sense as well?
I go up and down the roller coaster of apathy every year. I do always find myself back at on the climb, but like we're diehards, right? Like we're
Yeah.
following this team through and through, and that doesn't speak for everyone. Um, you mentioned philosophy. Jurgen Klopp changed the philosophy of Liverpool. Keith Pelley brought up philosophy, and he specifically used three words that he is looking to. He thinks makes a winner not only for a team but an organization: skill, chemistry, unity. Little cliche.
Not
What were your
not
thoughts on
honor,
that?
not honor, pride, courage, like they've had for the
It,
past 10
yeah,
years.
they're on par. They're on par. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um,
What do you think
I
about chemistry, skill, chemistry, unity?
I mean, listen, that's stuff that we want to hear, right? But
Yeah,
until I start seeing it, because here's the thing, over the I think over the past 12 months, it's kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to see the lack thereof of chemistry, especially in the top brass. There is a lot of infighting going on between the owners of the Toronto Maple Leafs, like, and the MLSE board. So this affects all the other teams under the MLSE banner, but most importantly, it's going to affect the Maple Leafs because at the end of the day, that is the money maker. Let's not. I'm not hearing other things like when the Leafs are on, they're on. Okay. There's also been infighting with the Leafs management. Like, and we saw it last summer with Kyle Dubas being fired. And now I know we're going to talk about Brendan Shanahan a little bit later. I don't know if we're how far in, but I'm not fully convinced. Like, he's going to stay for this year, but he is quite literally waiting on choppy waters right now. He's trying to sail the ocean in a paddle boat. It feels like. I think his time is almost up if something doesn't change within the next 12 months. And we'll see. But yeah, that Keith Pelley can say what he wants. The thing is, a lot of people in this organization has been saying things of that ilk or similar things for the past 10 years, and nothing much has changed. So now what I want to see is Keith to put these, how is he going to put these words into action? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. No, accountability would have been a great word to use because yeah, we've
Oh.
been talking about that, and we've been talking about that specifically after like player quotes from the playoffs and being like, oh, everyone always says the right things, and then we're waiting for it to become action, and we never saw it, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
why we're in the predicament we are. Um, yeah, before we go to Brendan Shanahan, just to touch on the scale, chemistry, unity thing, those are definitely like ideals to reach for, right? It's something to strive for and day out, that type of thing. Honestly, I think you might be bang on comparing it to honor, pride, courage. If the Leafs ever did the thing, skill, chemistry, unity would be on the inside
Oh,
of the
yeah.
alternate jersey celebrating the
Oh,
Stanley
yeah.
Cup, right? That would be the thing. Um,
There would be a flag flying from
yeah,
the parade float with,
yeah,
like, you know how they have like it inside their locker room, it's like honor, pride, courage. It would be that on one flag, and the other saying on the other side, basically just waving around
skill,
like this.
chemistry, yeah,
Skill,
yeah.
chemistry, unity.
Yeah. Like chemistry and unity, I think they're pretty similar things to be honest. And yeah, I
I
think
I don't know if you
the
could
import
find a thesaurus to find another word in
yeah,
there, if I'm
right?
being
Yeah,
honest.
more
How much
synonyms.
chemistry do you guys need? A lot, apparently.
Lots, bro. Lots. I think I don't want them to strive for that ideal and in doing that not have conflict because I think conflict is good and you can still have chemistry and unity with conflict, healthy conflict, right? Because I think at times we saw that this team was conflict averse, right?
Hmm.
Not well, even management too, right? Risk averse, right? Not wanting to make the change, and almost getting stuck in fake unity and chemistry, if you want to call it that, right?
Yeah.
I think healthy chemistry and unity does involve healthy conflict, which is some of the arguments that we saw on the bench in this series, the
Hmm.
last series with Willie and Mitch, right? So yeah, I just don't want them to get caught in ideals because you're never going to have full chemistry and unity in the sense that every day is the best day ever, and there's no ups and downs. Those exist
And
100%. So chemistry and unity
and
is sticking through all those.
and you're never gonna have, 25 of the top peak male athletes in the world all be on the same page. Like,
Yeah,
people are not
day in
gonna
and day
like
out.
each other,
Yeah.
right? Especially
It's so
spending that
isn't that
much.
something that we saw was they sometimes they were on the same page too much, right? Which is a problem.
It
If there's
almost
not
felt kind
enough
of
differing opinion, it's
it
right.
honestly kind of felt fake sometimes. Like
Yeah,
you're telling me none of these guys have told each other to go
yeah.
fuck themselves at one point in their,
And
like,
so, and so
I don't
either way,
believe
even if
that.
it's fake, right? Even if it's fake, that's obviously not good, right? Like they got to feel comfortable enough to be true with each other. And then if it is true that they're just always on the same page, that obviously isn't good either. So no matter what,
No
something would
difference
have
of
to shift.
opinion. 100%.
Yeah. The only other one liner that I liked from Keith Pelley, not that I didn't like what he said in general, but the we're not here to sell jerseys line. That was another good one. That was another good
Yeah.
one. So
I mean,
file that in the back pocket. It
again,
might become relevant at some point.
I like the quotes. I would just like to see
Yeah.
these quotes put into action. I
Yes.
get Keith
Yes.
Pelley is coming in tough times, dude. And if he wants to really ingratiate himself with the fan, I think it would be wise of him to do more fan forward initiatives rather than, there's fan forward initiatives, right? And then there's fan forward thinking initiatives. I don't know what that is. I'm not in that position to say. That is Keith Pelley's job. If you want to ingratiate yourself with the fan, make yourself more relatable to the average fan, let's say, than some of the guys that are sitting in, for lack of a better term, some of those suits that are sitting in your lower half of the bowl. I've definitely heard options of the way to go around that. Put that into action though, because like a lot of these words
Yeah.
have no meaning if you're not going to put actions behind it.
Okay, so let's wrap up Keith Pelley. Just think we're
Yeah,
happy overall with what he said.
yeah,
Seven and
I'm
a
fine.
half, 8 out of 10 on the day.
I am,
We'll see
yeah,
where it goes from there, right? That's it.
being having only a month on the job, I'm
Yeah,
excited to see what he can bring going forward.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's move to you mentioned suits. Second guy in the suit on this panel here, Brendan
Ugh,
Shanahan. Um, yeah.
ugh.
What are we taking from this? I've seen differing opinions coming out of the presser. Some people saying they didn't mind what he said, some people not happy with it at all. I do think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I think he gave pretty standard Brendan Shanahan answers, very corporate speak, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know if you were ever going to get much more out of him. So I think having that expectation in mind, I wasn't. My feathers were ruffled by what he said. But I know other people were expecting more. I think maybe people wanted accountability with maybe some name, not name calling, but dropping names, aka Mitch, JT, when it comes to like trade clauses and stuff like that. He did kind of skirt around things, but once again, I think in corporate speak, we got good answers out of him, as long as you can interpret them afterwards. What
Yeah.
were your thoughts?
Um, yeah, no, dude, I figured as soon as we heard that Shanahan was going to be speaking, on this day, like they put out the press release saying that he was going to be speaking. I think we all figured, okay, well, here is one more year with him. The Shana plan is at its, I would say, at its impasse right now, right? This is this is the most imperative year for Brendan Shanahan's future, let's say. If this team goes another year with no little to no success again, and that is not making out of the first round, not even putting up a fight, even putting up a fight in the second round now is almost like, yeah, like a death
Yeah,
sentence. Like, dude, I think it's like
you
third
need to
round.
see like yeah, full on
I want to
improvement
see
from this year, right? You have to see
tangible
the team
improvement.
change and something come out of it. Yeah,
A
yeah,
hundred
yeah. I think
percent.
that's fair expectations. Yeah,
Um, does it not feel like, yeah, this is a man that's, uh, I don't know if it's walking on eggshells, but he is right now on borrowed time, in my opinion, and should be on borrowed time in Keith
yeah.
Pelley's eyes.
He was
No,
choosing his words wisely in that press conference, right?
yes, a hundred
Yeah,
percent.
a lot of
There,
prepared answers. Basically, anytime there was a question about the core four and his prior belief in it and what's changed, he always went back to that patience answer and patience running out.
yeah,
That was kind of always the phrasing he used. So yeah, I think people wanted accountability with kind of him explaining himself for why he believed in them for so long and what's finally changed. Whereas he just kind of blanket statement said, as I've said, patience has run out and that requires change, but didn't elaborate much on it, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I do think I wasn't surprised to see him a sitting there and be getting kind of that confirmation that he's back. Keith Pelley had to quote that Brendan Shanahan is a champion. So a bit of an endorsement there. I compared it to the situation last year with Treliving coming in and keeping Keefe on for the year, right? That was kind of it's a bit of an excuse, but there is merit behind it. Hey, I'm new on the job. I don't know these guys. I need to spend some time with them and make that decision down the road. Leafs obviously are tight on time. We have been tight on time for a while. And so I get people's frustration with come in, make moves instantly, but that's just not how things work all the
It's,
time. So
yeah.
Keith
Listen,
Pelley's taking that same approach with Brendan Shanahan, I think.
we can bitch and moan about it all we want, but I think we were definitely getting a little bit too big for our britches to expect wholesale just decimation of, especially of that front office after I mean, the only thing that we got so far is Sheldon Keefe, right? Like the Sheldon Keefe hire, which was expected, I would say. I um I was definitely a little bit more upset that they didn't go higher and they didn't go like Shanny. Listen, there's been like almost no success. Why does he still have a job? Those are all very, very fair questions. But to your point, I think we said this to each other actually. I don't think they wanted the drama again of last year. Um
Yes and no, because there this summer's gonna be
they
drama,
did
right? It's gonna be player drama,
there's going to be
but
drama regardless,
yeah,
100%. But
yeah.
to at very least mitigate some of the
Yeah.
extra
Could you
um
say that they're looking for some chemistry and unity in the management, and
yeah,
that making a firing right off the bat might not be great for that?
does is Brendan Shanahan completely and inept with what he does? We honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you for
No,
sure.
I
I
would I would say no. He's not inept because
I would
end
I
of the
would
day,
lean
whether
no. I would
yeah,
lean
I
no.
think where if you look at this organization before Brendan Shanahan came in, and now as much as like we are frustrated, the fan base is frustrated. There's a big difference between making the playoffs 8 years in a row and making it
And
what
not.
once in the 8 years before that, right? Like
Yeah, it was pretty
as dumb
close.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and as dumb as stupid as it sounds, like to say like the organization is far better off with Shanny here. It's the truth. Now, you don't want that to stagnate. We're obviously aspiring for higher goals than the first and second round, right? So if he can't take us farther than that, we got to aim higher. But I do think he's done good on the organization as a whole. Now, obviously, he's been in charge of keeping the core four intact. Because I think even last year we basically learned that Dubas was prepared to fire Keefe and trade someone of the core four last season. Obviously, he didn't stay on because of Shanny and Dubas, what happened there. And I guess in a sense, it's set the organization 1 year back because we're making those moves a year later. Now we've come to that same conclusion just a year later. So yeah, I think Shanny obviously to survive this year, like you said, third round conference rounds. I think that sounds like a very good expectation to have. Um, and yeah, we'll see.
Does
I think yeah, like on the whole,
to
people are
survive
down
this
on him.
year, to survive
Yeah,
this year, does Shanny not need to relent a little bit of power to
yeah, yes. We'll get to that because honestly, there was one thing I noticed where Shandy said, I'm gonna throw it over to Brad here to answer this question. I forget what it was about, but I almost saw that as a little bit like I'm gonna go to this guy who also has a little bit of power, a little bit of say, maybe more than usual. I'm sure he's done that with Kyle too, but I saw that, I thought a little bit about it. Let's talk about Brad. I think people are pretty happy with what he said. I don't know if it's just because we're happy with kind of his performance on the season as a whole, and we kind of just translated that into the presser. But I thought he had some really good answers. One in particular. What did you think?
dude, I will be the first one to admit it. I was not very happy when they announced his hiring.
I
When
was
I
right
when
there
I
with you.
saw that when I saw that he was like our top candidate, like the top candidate for the Leafs, I was definitely a bit weary. And then I saw some of the signings that he had made, and it made me uncertain. But I was definitely optimistic on the promise of what could happen, basically.
It was time. It was time for change, and
Yeah.
right.
I,
I think when the change happened, we both weren't as open to it, and I
yes,
think
100%.
that change has now opened us up to more change. Right. So
I'm
yeah,
fully on team Brad Treliving right now because not only did um he was a big reason why there was a few bright spots on this team, and I think a big reason of that was because of him bringing in guys like Simone Benoit on for basically
yeah.
practically nothing. Um,
Nobody was a Simone Benoit believer. Nobody.
yeah, not even the
Stats
Anaheim
community.
Ducks
I
were
don't know. Yeah, like
yeah,
my comp for him was Ben Harper. That was my
yeah,
expectation level for Simone
yeah,
Benoit. So
100%. Um,
no,
yeah, no, I would say a lot of the moves that he made were awesome. He achieved, at least himself, he had exceeded a lot higher expectations that I even placed on him, I would say. And they technically did worse than they did last year, right? Like somehow he still succeeded. And then he goes into this press conference and he's just so like open. He's so forthcoming about he tells
Confident,
things.
conviction in
Yeah,
his answers.
he tells things like it is. Like I think honestly, like I know most teams do it, but to see him kind of like go out of his way to let everybody know what the people on the team were dealing with. I know that's just like a standard sort of practice, but I can't recall another time when like did Kyle Dubas ever do that in years past, like at this press conference, or was it more like these are injury updates from Leaf PR, like this is what like take it or
I
leave
think
it
it's
basically.
I think usually the responsibility it's either a PR thing or I feel like I'm remembering a lot of the times it's the coach. And obviously we didn't have a coach to come out and say this and that, right? So yeah, I guess Brad took the responsibility upon himself. He's that type of guy, right? Like I don't know. I think for me, the biggest takeaway I had was from his quote about winning teams, and this is paraphrasing, but it was winning teams have the ability to make everyone feel important enough so that if you took anyone off the roster, the guys in that room would say we couldn't win without him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he said that's irrespective of how much they're paid, how much they play, how many points they get, how many goals they score, all of that. And I think that's basically encapsulating everything that Leaf fans understand they need in this team going forward and what they've needed
Mm-hmm.
for years, right? Now it's once again, that's a great ideal to strive towards. Putting it into action is another thing. But I thought that was a great quote. I think that's a quote we could look back on if we do have success next year and say that's what our team looks like. That's how this
Mm-hmm.
happened. So did like that. Did like Brad on the whole. I do think I made the comparison to you that if these three guys were politicians, Keith Pelley, he's getting a decent grade. Like he's probably I don't know if it's a percent thing, I'm giving him like 70%. If it's
Yeah, popular
Shanny,
vote. Yeah,
yeah, I think
30.
Shanny is like yeah, Shanny. So I it's different because it's like yeah, if
Yeah,
you're voting for one guy versus the other,
you gotta grade it
right?
on
Like
a
I'm
scale
looking,
too. Because with
yeah,
Shanny, especially, I think we all expected if you were gonna tell me one of the like of the three of them, who's gonna have the most like PR, spun answers, who's learned under
yeah.
Lou Lamoriello's talk
He's
of
the
not
most
saying
politician
nothing.
of the three, right?
Yeah, I guess
So
in politician talks,
yeah,
he probably got like 100%, 90%, let's say. In
yeah,
terms of in terms of actual answers, I'm giving him like a 40%. He got an
yeah,
underpassing rate
yeah.
for me.
I don't know. I see. I don't even know if it's about the answers. It's just if you're polling fans after that press conference, their confidence in each individual,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think Shanny's like 50-50. I think it's flip a coin. I don't know.
Dude, I think it's even
You
less
think
than
it's
that.
lower?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
it's
maybe
lower.
I'm just too optimistic. But I think Brad like, he's probably at like 80 to
90.
be honest, right? Like
Dude,
yeah, it's high. It's
yeah,
high.
he's in there. He's
Yeah.
he's reaching for honor rolls right now.
And listen,
Brad,
we don't have a crazy sample size to look at, but I don't know.
yeah.
I did like what he said there. Obviously, the press conference is not the biggest event of the summer. There's going to be a lot that happens that's more important than this, and we'll forget about a lot of this pretty quickly, I think. Yeah, I think the only other thing we want to talk about, honestly, we didn't really get to talk about the key firing because it happened, yeah, while we were gone. I don't know if we got to talk too much about why he was fired, that type of stuff, because I think we did a
I
lot
think
of
we did
that.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, we did a lot
100%.
of that during the series when it was 3-1 Bruins, and then after the series, we did a lot
Dude,
of that,
we
right?
wrote
Like
his
we fired him
obituary
twice.
at 3-1, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I think we did it twice, right? After the series and during the
bro,
series.
yeah. This
So
is gonna be his
we're not
third
gonna do it a
time.
third
Is
time.
he
Let's spare him the third time. Third time was
is he
not the
is he
charm.
in the ground? Can we make sure that he's
Yeah,
lifeless now? He
yeah,
is.
yeah.
I
So
do want to
I
say,
think yeah,
yeah, man, I want to wish that guy well. That video that he
yeah.
sent out of him, like, I, dude, he could have been in Europe. He could have been in Northern Ontario. If it's my
What's
guess, he's
the
in
yeah?
what?
He's in Muskoka, I think.
Oh, yeah, like
Yeah,
Algonquin Lake. If you're telling
yeah,
me he's not in like Moosonee, Ontario right
yeah.
now, Yeah, just kind of
What's the
like posting
line
on the
from
beach.
Red Dead Redemption? It's like we're gonna go to, is it Tahiti? Is that what it
Oh,
is?
we got Arthur. We
Is he in
gotta go to.
Tahiti?
He's like, we gotta go to Tahiti. We gotta get more money. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that game.
yeah.
Oh
Maybe he's in
God.
Tahiti.
Yeah, maybe he
Um,
is. Maybe he's a mango
yeah.
farmer. I don't know.
Anyways, go on
Um,
about the. What did you think about that
no,
video?
it's just like um we ragged on him a lot. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of balls to record a video like that. Most times, I think most teams will just get their PR staff to kind of pen something up and he'll put his signature on. No,
Yeah.
that was
Would you
Sheldon
hold
Keefe.
anything against him for wanting to be
No,
fired and never heard of again from Toronto? Right?
no,
Like you wouldn't hold that against him.
I wouldn't because I think most people would just do that. That's kind of like the thing.
Yeah.
But for him to take the initiative and record from his vacation home, I'm still adamant that they told him about this a while, probably just after the series had
I
finished,
I
and he
think
was
on
able
Monday. I
to
think after
after
the
clean out.
player clean out. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
maybe you're
Yeah.
right. And so he was able to probably get his family away from the city for
Good
I don't
move.
know, I don't know how long, and I don't know how much longer they will
As long as
be.
he needs, man. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're
Yeah.
right. I yeah, from Sheldon Keefe, he was the guy. Like it got lost in translation, but or it got lost in the heat of the moment. But when the Leafs scored that overtime winner in Game 7, I will always have the memory of Sheldon Keefe legitimately flying. He looked like Superman for a second. He jumped so high off the bench when that goal went in, as did a lot of members on this frustrated team. But Sheldon Keefe wore a lot of those frustrations for the most part. I wish him well in the future. Yeah, I don't know if there's you got anything else to add there, bud?
Yeah. Couple things to add. Yeah, I definitely echo like I will definitely wish the best to the man, Sheldon Keefe, the coach. We can have our differences about, but you can tell like I cared through and through for his players, for the organization, and you saw that in the video. I think, and I think another thing lost in not translation, but just lost in this entire Sheldon Keefe tenure, is that he's a hometown guy too. We always think about the players as hometown guys, but
Hmm.
I think it meant something to him as I think he's from Brampton, right? Like it meant
Yeah,
something for him to coach this
100%.
team. And I think that's part of why he made that video. Is it was a dream come true to coach this team, regardless of how it ended for him.
It's the
Um,
opportunity of a
right?
lifetime for a lot of people living in
Yeah,
Southern
yeah.
Ontario. Yeah.
Tough. He didn't seize it to the full potential, but listen, he
There
had
was
some
that
success.
glimpse,
He's one of the
man.
winning. Yeah, there was glimpses. One of the winningest coaches in Leafs history, NHL history so far to start his career. So, definitely wish him the best from that standpoint. We'll do a little bit more Leaf talk after the break. I think we should touch on kind of obviously who we think the replacement's going to be here in Toronto, and maybe a little bit back on Keefe, where it might be a good match for him. We can talk about it. So we'll get into that after the break. Okay, back from the break, we were just talking about Sheldon Keefe being let go of, not really relitigating why he was let go of, but just kind of closing thoughts on him. And I think finally to close on Keefe, let's maybe talk about where he could go. It sounds like New Jersey's got some interest in him. You good there, Dev?
I had to mute my mic because I choked.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I'll buy you some more time here. Yeah, there was a report, like pretty soon after Keefe got let go that Sheldon might be an option in New Jersey. I don't know if like I don't mind that fit for him. I don't know if I would think it's the best fit. I think if he wants to coach his teams the way he did the Leafs this past series, kind of a very different style from how the team is made up. I think Seattle might be a good fit for him because that roster I think is well made to play the style that Keefe did this year in the playoffs.
So I do agree actually with that point. I think that's a very fair point. But do you think that the New Jersey Devils, who were defensively one of the most porous teams in the NHL this past season and have been actually for the past few years, I would say going back to like even before Jack Hughes's like rookie year, they've
Outside of last year, they've been like a pretty bad team. They had the one year they made the playoffs and lost to Tampa, but
but
they've been one
dude,
of the worst teams in the NHL outside of that.
dude, even last year, I could vaguely remember them not being like a top tier. Like you weren't looking to them as being the top tier defensive unit. They had defensive pieces, but maybe not as a whole unit. What we can say from Sheldon Keefe is he is somebody who kind of squeezes blood out of out of a stone, at the very least, on in his defensive units. They
Yeah.
do tend to play pretty tight, compact defensive hockey, right?
Greater than the sum of their parts. You'll look at names on the blue line and say, "Oh, this is going to be a stinky decor," and then you look at the result and it's like, okay, that's possible considering what you're working with. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. Does it not feel like New Jersey is also trying to copy, kind of mold themselves in the same style as the Leafs? In that they're trying, they probably see the writing on the wall there too. They need to bulk up, especially on D. They have a lot of not very strong D, let's
Yeah,
say. Um, do they want to maybe get maybe a little bit more immobile for the sake of getting meatier and bulkier? Is that
I
potentially an option that they could go down?
yeah, I like Tom Fitzgerald as a GM, and there's a lot of I've said this so many times. There's so many defensemen in free agency this year that I think a lot of at least contending teams are going to get maybe not their top choice on the blue line, but very good blue liners, more than usual, I think. So yeah, I could see that. But really, I think the biggest weakness with New Jersey, and it feels like they're going to address this. They've been trying to, and they did a little bit with Jake Allen, but it's goaltending, right? Like
Yeah.
I think if they have good goalies even this year, their story's pretty different. So yeah, I think they play a bit of a faster style than Leafs because the Leafs, as much as they started out as a fast team when this core came through, they aren't as fast as they
They
were
got very
back then.
slow, very quick.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that's an
So
underrated part to
yeah,
the
yeah. So
DNA of
Jersey
the
plays with a
Leafs.
lot more pace.
100%.
Um, yeah. So yeah, it depends. But I think Keefe, like obviously when he first took over the Leafs team, he didn't want to play the style that he ended up playing this past year either, right? I think he was trying to make the most of what he had. So he's adaptable in that sense. And maybe the other point here is there's not really that many great coaching candidates, and Keefe kind of finds himself high on the list, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what's part of it too.
Yeah, like we said, like there's quite a few names that were being thrown out that we were just like, if that's the replacement, you might as well just bring Sheldon back at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
And maybe we're wrong. Maybe some of the names on the list are underratedly just the right fit for the team. Maybe it was, maybe for the Leafs right now, it's just a sense of getting a new voice in the room. Who knows? I have
yeah.
zero clue. We really don't.
Let's
But
talk about those names in the
yeah, go right ahead.
yeah, and in the context of the Leafs, let's talk about those names other than Keefe.
Yeah.
Like obviously, he's not coming here.
Do you want to go
Okay.
high end or low end first? Let's say we work
Um,
top down because it gets
let's
it gets
let's
murky really
go.
quick.
It does get murky really quick. Let's go bottom up because it'll be fast,
Oh,
and then we'll probably have the most to say at the top, obviously, right?
okay.
So I don't see. Okay, this isn't really in the order of worst to best, but it's Group A and Group B, right? Like
Yeah.
I think for me, non-options.
Yeah,
Um,
go.
see, okay, I don't even know if they're non-options, but for me, low on my list is like Todd McClellan. I'm not big on Todd
Yeah,
McClellan
please. No.
because we talked about this. I think he's a version of Keefe, right? And so teams usually don't get the replacement of their coach in the same makeup as their last guy, right? That's just not how it goes, right?
Yeah.
And like players aren't going to respond well to bringing in just uh, uh, same guy, different name. Doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. So he's low on my list. Um, there's other like wishy-washy names like Dean Evison to me. He's a version of another guy we're gonna mention. Gerard Gallant, version of another guy we're gonna mention. I'll just mention him. He's at the
Yeah.
top. Craig Berube. We'll stop. We'll end there. But to me, Dean Evison, Gerard Gallant are versions of Craig Berube. I know people trend a little bit higher on Gallant than I do. Um, where do you fall on that spectrum? Because I've heard more
I'm
people say that he's not as bad as I think he is.
I tend to lean more in that boat than you. I think he's kind of been casted off unceremoniously at sometimes. He had that whole fiasco with what was it? It was Alan Walsh and Marc-Andre Fleury, right? Was he not at the center
Yeah,
of that?
he was. And the other fiasco, he was more like a victim, if anything, was when he got fired by the Panthers. Remember
Yeah,
that? And they kind of kicked him to the curb, literally, and made him get a cab to the
yeah.
airport.
I
Yeah,
feel like sometimes it's just like I don't know. Yeah, you definitely think lower of him than me. I think we have our consensus. Like most of the
yeah,
Leafs Nation kind of has their consensus pick. Um, and the consensus pick also makes a lot of sense
yeah,
in the long run.
yeah.
Getting somebody like Gerard Gallant, though, I will admit, is almost like getting your B option. So you want to go to McDonald's and your mom says, "Oh, we have McDonald's at home," and it's like I don't know, a sandwich that
A and
wasn't
W.
even.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, A&W's good.
I actually agree. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're going to get Burger King basically. Like no, who eats
yeah,
Burger King basically,
yeah.
right?
No,
Like nobody
no.
does. Um,
Um, uh, there's one other not controversy, but one other sticking point I have with Gallant from recent memory. Um, with the Rangers, not last year, his first year, I think it was his first year with the Rangers, when they went on more of the Cinderella run to the conference finals, where Shesterkin was crazy good. He helped you scratch, I think, a couple times, Lafreniere
Lafreniere,
and Kako.
yeah.
He is not great at getting the best out of younger options.
Hmm.
And I know the Leafs aren't a young team, but
They
we
have those
want to
pieces.
get younger. We have those
Hmm.
pieces like Nick Robertson, Matthew Nyes, Easton Cowan potentially.
Fraser
Those are the
Minton,
kind of Fraser Minton. So if you want to integrate those guys, I don't know if he's the best option for that.
100%.
That's I think it might also be top of my list for reasons I'm not
I will definitely
really
hear
big
that
on him.
argument out.
Yeah.
That is a worthwhile argument because it very genuinely looks like at the very least, Easton Cowan will be getting a bigger role, a
Jesus
role
Christ, man.
on this
Holy.
team already.
12
And
points in 3 games for anybody not
man,
sure in the
it
OHL
also
finals.
it also kind of seems to me like they really want to give Nick Robertson a bigger role or find somebody else
Yeah.
who will. It's almost
Yeah.
like make or break time for Nick Robertson. We could definitely get into that more in the summer when the moves
Yeah, that'll
start
definitely.
coming in.
Yeah.
Nick Robertson seems like the is that not the type of guy that Gerard Gallant will outcast, will just
Yeah.
ostracize?
I mean, I could even see it with a couple other coaches too. Like he seems like he might be that guy for a lot of coaches. But I
Yeah,
think Gallant, yeah, like that's you could envision that very easily. The only other coach I want to mention is Jay Woodcroft, who I think is once again, I think he's actually higher on the list of coaching candidates around the league. Like maybe not for the Leafs job, but I think in terms of quality, he's decently high up there. I just don't know if there's a fit with the Leafs. I don't know if he's a version of Keefe, but I just don't know if he's got the wherewithal media wise, honestly. I think he's not snarky, but I think sometimes his press conferences with Edmonton, he
people
would
will
have
they'll get under his skin really quick. I know.
yeah, and not even that, but I think he also like he wants to push back sometimes too,
Oh,
and it's a bad argument to
mix.
get in. It doesn't help anybody, right? Keith,
Yeah.
for one thing, I think he did really well at not putting himself in those situations. Sometimes he controlled his words too much, and we saw
He
that, right?
he was excellent. I think he was very, very good at patting the Flames down, basically. When the
Yes, but
Flames were
sometimes,
yeah, too much sometimes. Sometimes he
yeah,
tried to stop, drop, and roll like him like
yeah,
onto the flame, basically.
yeah.
Right? Instead of just
And I
patting
could
it out.
just
You know what I mean?
I could see someone with Woodcroft where it's not the right mix in that respect.
No,
And then
100%.
coaching wise, I don't know. I think he was a good fit for
He was
that
fine.
Oilers team, and I just do think he's a little too
I
green. I
I
think for this
think
job too, right?
if I'm being honest, I think Jay Woodcroft was a good change of voice for that 1 year that he came
Yeah,
in, and then his voice got staler than a lot of people would have expected or liked,
Yeah.
and that was his ticket out of town.
Yeah,
What
I do
about
think he's a little green for the job. I could see him like on a rebuilding team, like maybe San
yeah?
Jose might be a good fit.
How does DJ Smith sound like to
Yeah,
you?
no, that's it.
No,
That's it.
no, no.
Uh, there was one name in my head that we. Bruce Boudreau. I'm sorry, I'm not
Yeah,
here for it. I'm not. Uh, he's awesome. Like the personality of Bruce
yeah.
Boudreau is fantastic. 10 out of 10.
I
We
think his
don't need
time's
that type of
expired him.
coach. Yeah, it's just not. And I know it would be a homecoming for him too, but we already did the homecoming. I think Rube actually might be a homecoming too. But
That would have
I
been
don't know. It's
surprised.
just yeah, it's not what we need. It's not what we need. Maybe as a power play coach, but even then, I don't want him on this coaching staff because I think that players would gravitate towards him if they have him as an outlet and kind of steal a bit of the thunder of a head coach. So I think he has to be a head coach somewhere, but I don't know where, and it's not Toronto. And then
Yeah,
that leaves us with Craig Berube. I think for me the biggest difference, and I've voiced this to you, is that Craig Berube, he's not a great soundbite, and I learned that from listening to some of his interviews when he wasn't a coach this year. But sometimes that's not bad, especially like here in Toronto. It's not a bad thing to not be a soundbite. And I once again, I don't think the media would get to him.
yeah,
Um, and he does kind of similar to Brad, speak with conviction. I don't think there's any guessing what he really means when he talks. And I
Eh,
think sometimes I would have that feeling with
yeah,
Keefe where he would say something about a player, and in my mind, it'd say, you don't really believe that. And I can tell from the way you said it. You don't
yeah,
really have confidence in this player. You're saying that in hopes that he's that player's gonna have confidence, but you don't really believe in him. So how is he? I don't think you get that with Berube. He's either gonna tell you he doesn't have confidence in him or he does and
yeah.
he means it. I think that's
If
kind of the direction you need.
if the Leafs were to redo their Amazon Prime All or Nothing and they have Craig Berube in the head coaching spot and he goes up to Jimmy
Expletives
V,
per 60,
yes,
up big time.
if he goes up to Jimmy VC and he pulls him aside, what does he say to him? Does he say that he's a
He's not
vanilla
saying you're
player?
vanilla. No, he's not saying he's vanilla ice cream. He's saying you're 2 years expired, I don't know, garbage,
Fucking
uh,
garbage
booger
carton of
jelly
milk.
bean. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Left out in the
yeah,
hot sun in an Arizona
yeah,
desert. Yeah. No,
yeah, yeah.
100%. Craig Berube might he might be the guy. Again, we have no idea. We could sit here and talk about coaches all we want being the right fit. Um, maybe the hard ass is what they need. Like I don't know. I don't. I thought we had the hard ass with Mike. That his shtick got old really really quick here. Um, at least with Craig, there's no circumstances. Like I haven't heard anything to be like, maybe watch out for some of the stuff this guy does. Like it doesn't seem like he has an ego power trip every time he puts on a blue and white tracksuit, basically, like Mike did. Um, I don't know. Like I at the end of the day, like I would like to say that it's Craig Berube. He has my pick, and I think it's just because like we mentioned before, there really isn't another option. And I think a lot of people are just working themselves into buying in, basically. Like that's all it is.
Yeah,
Everybody's just trying to cope right now with, yeah, he's our next coach. Just get him in,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. I do. Like I said this when we were talking about Keefe being let go. We could definitely look back in a year and say, "Oh, I missed this and that about Keefe compared to whoever this guy is now." And I could see that with Berube. There might be something that we're not seeing right now that we're like, "Oh, how did we not realize that Berube isn't good at this aspect that Keefe nailed, and we just didn't notice it because it was good." But every coach has their advantages, disadvantages, and this team right now feels like they need a lot of what Berube brings as a strength, conviction, the accountability. Those stupid hockey terms that everyone likes to say, as dumb as they are,
They're
we
important.
kind of need them right now. They are. And I do
Yeah.
think Berube, he leans more motivator than X's and O's coach, but that's
Mhm.
okay. That's what you can get assistant coaches in for that. Like I think we're okay. Sometimes there's such thing as too much systems. Honestly, I think we saw that with like our power play this year.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, the only other thing is I think Berube and Treliving seem like they would be a good fit. they seem like they would be on the same page. And chemistry, skill, chemistry, unity, that you want that. And a lot of the times we didn't have that with president, GM, coach. And I could see us maybe having that for the first time in a while. With I do think Shanny and Treliving are there on the same page, or else Brad wouldn't have been brought in the first place. So I do think we might have that kind of chain of operations, or chain of command for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of Leafs talk, a little bit more than we planned, but it was good to flush that out. And yeah, we've been gone for more than a week. There is playoffs going on in case people didn't know. Let's talk about
I
Boston,
thought it was
Florida.
only about the Leafs.
I thought so too, man. I was surprised when I looked at my phone this morning. I was like, oh my God, they still play hockey? Okay. Boston, Florida in the Who Hates the Leafs More Bowl. Florida is up. They're down tonight right now, end of the first intermission. Bruins are up 1-0 on I think it's a Morgan Geekie goal. But Florida leads 3-1 in the series. Can they put it away as soon as maybe we're done this pod? What are your thoughts been on this series? There's been a
Yeah,
lot of
there's been a
extracurriculars.
lot of
So
thoughts on this
on the ice,
series.
off the ice,
I
everything in
mean,
between. What have you got?
listen, I would say this series has gone exactly to plan. Like Florida looks like the better team, and there's a shit ton of extracurriculars. If you were gonna sit here and tell me that the two, let's say, grimiest, dirtiest, whatever you want to call them, teams
Uh,
were to play each other, and there would be
Most physical
no,
teams. We brought up that stat. They had the most hits in the NHL, 1 and 2. Florida and
yeah,
Boston.
yeah. And then who was number three? Was it not the Leafs, or was they like 4 or 5,
It was
something like
us.
that?
No, it was us.
Tough.
It
Was
was
us?
us. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean those two teams, it almost for the Bruins, it almost feels like a continuation of actually for both teams, honestly, it feels like continuations of their first round matchup because it seems like Tampa, Toronto, Florida, Boston all seem to,
We just interchange. We just
yeah,
go around and say, okay, your time to play this team and whatever. Yeah.
yeah, but not even just that, but even in like the way that they played, I would say especially this past year, it's over the last few years of Maple Leafs hockey, the Leafs look like they were finally engaging in shitty things, basically. Let's say ratty things to do.
Yeah.
Like there was definitely an air of rat to them that the other three teams that I just mentioned have kind of implemented and had down pat, like the Bruins have for close to 15 years now. It seems like, it yeah, this series is exactly as advertised, coming
Yeah.
with a Sam Bennett falcon punch to the skull of Brad Marchand that was left
Yeah.
on call. And listen,
I think it's tough to have an opinion that was like that shouldn't have been a suspension or should have been given something disciplinary. Like that's
probably a penalty for sure. Like
oh, a
how you didn't
penalty would
get a
be nice,
penalty out
right?
of there, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure. But at the end of the
Eh, eh,
day, it's the two teams that just this is their game. Like
yeah.
I don't know why people expected anything different
No, we
from
saw
this
from Sam
series.
Bennett in round 2 last year, choke slamming Matthew Nyes,
We saw
cross
from Sam
checking
Bennett
Michael
all
Bunting.
playoffs last year, like
Yeah,
with him.
he's that guy.
He is
So
that
that's the
guy.
thing is the Florida Panthers are the better team. They're also the better version of the Boston Bruins, is what we've learned in this series, right? Like that's as simple as it is, honestly. So yeah, I agree. Like I'm not surprised by 3-1 Florida in the series. Um, I don't know. I do have them wrapping it up tonight. I did have Florida in 5 in this series. I don't know if it's just being
I
salty about the Bruins, but that
I
was
do
my guess.
too. I would tend to agree, but I also wouldn't be surprised if because they're in Florida tonight. Man, if oh wait, no, are they in Florida No, yeah, they are, right?
Tonight they
Florida's
are
the
in
higher
Florida.
seed.
They
Yeah.
are in Florida.
If they go back to Boston for game 6, man, that crowd, if they get a little bit of a
They show up no
spark,
matter what. Show up
yeah,
no matter what.
both teams do though. But I'm saying if
Yeah.
Boston gets that extra little spark behind them, it could be an interesting game 6 should they
Yeah.
see tonight. Oh, we could actually see maybe we see the reverse Boston curse, basically, right? Like
It was 3-1. Yeah.
there's a chance. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Boston Bruins are fully dead and buried because we've done that before and they have never been. So But yeah, I do like Florida to win the series. Next we'll do
Let's go to the team that is trying to also force game 6, Carolina and the Rangers.
man.
Rangers were up 3-0 in the series. They had gone 7-0 to start their playoffs. And Carolina's taken the past 2 games. It's a 3-2 series. So actually, sorry, they're trying to force game 7, not game 6. Yeah, this one, it feels like Carolina's played good enough to not have been down 3-0 in the first place, and now
Mhm.
the score is kind of
It's
regressed to where
evening
it should
out,
have been, right?
100%.
So I don't know. I think in this one, I think my biggest takeaway is honestly something we learned in class. In passing, one of our teachers mentioned that Vincent Trocheck led the playoffs in time on ice.
Yeah.
That was in for
He's a
forwards. I was like,
man,
what?
great
Yeah,
player, man.
yeah.
He is exactly like he's a playoff player that most teams need. Like he does quite a bit for the New York Rangers. For me, what this series though comes down to is goaltending. I've seen enough Frederick Anderson backbreaking goals in Leaf history, and it's even in these playoffs. There's a couple of times where he will just give up the biggest softie after having a pretty good game. So for me, in that area, I think I'm taking Igor Shesterkin over Freddie, but man, do the Canes rock still. I love watching the Carolina Hurricanes. I know a lot of people don't. I love watching the Carolina Hurricanes play. They just go out and hit
All
anything in
out
sight.
every shift.
Yeah.
They hit everything. They
Uh,
shoot everything. They do
they do
everything,
everything.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
100.
except maybe scoring the power play.
Yeah, except
But
except
yeah,
actually scoring in the playoffs in general because they
yeah,
seem to fall into the Leafs problem of not being able to score when the clock strikes April 14th or whatever, April 15th, basically.
it's my favorite time on the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very very even series. Like both two really really good teams. Yeah, just a fun series to watch. Lafreniere also just
Very good.
coming out party, right?
Yeah.
Like he's proving that he is finally arriving on the scene. Pretty
Is
good time to arrive on the scene as well.
I think we owe an apology to a lot of the guys, especially the 2020 draft year. They were, I would say, out of everybody most affected by COVID in terms of player wise, I think they were the most affected by COVID. They were in the like that was height of the pandemic. They really couldn't play in their draft years. Like Alexis Lafreniere might not live up to the number one potential, but my God, is he a definitely turning out to be a top, I would say top line winger. I'm not gonna go as far and say superstar yet, but man, is he on that trajectory. Quentin Byfield is another guy too who had a very good year out in Los Angeles, 1 and 2 right there.
It's good in the
How
playoffs
about
for the Kings as well.
yeah, how about we just let the 19-year-olds, grow before we start labeling them as one thing or another. And in that same
Might be
note,
good. Yeah,
Capicaco is a bust, but
yeah.
whatever.
That was good. That was good. Okay. I want to talk about another guy who got overlooked because of COVID. But before we get there, let's wrap up this series. What do you think happens down the stretch? Do the Canes force a game 7? Do they complete the reverse sweep, or do the Rags wrap this up? I think
I'm
honestly, I don't know what I had for this series, but I did have the Rags in the conference finals. I couldn't tell you
yeah.
how many games I had them in. It would probably have been 6 or 7.
I'm still taking Rags. And I think they should wrap it. Like they know the onus is now on them to wrap it up. Like it's kind of like, okay, they're
You're a little
starting to
scary
claw.
now, though.
It's a
Yeah.
squeaky bum time. But I
Yeah.
think if anybody's just gonna lock it down and hold the fort and not give up a backbreaking goal, it's gonna be the New York Rangers. I'm sorry, Carolina. I can't trust you with Freddie Anderson in net. As much as I loved Freddie here. Oh my God.
We
Oh
may
man.
also subconsciously be cheering for the Rags because it might make Rod Brindamore available, but
It
we'll
could.
see. We'll
Very
see.
well could.
We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so that other guy I was mentioning that was overlooked because of COVID in this draft was Wyatt Johnston,
Man.
leading Dallas Stars. Jesus Christ, this guy is so damn good. He might be my favorite story of the entire playoffs. because he quickly became one of my favorite players last year. And as much as I thought he could be an improved player this season, I did not see this from him. Like this is a guy who with Lafreniere, we're talking about maybe not superstar. Why Johnston? I'm fully bought in. Like
Dude,
this guy's incredible.
do the Dallas Stars miss on draft picks? How many
No,
draft picks are on their team since
should it be
2017?
illegal for the Dallas Stars to make draft picks going
No,
forward? I think
I
that's like
think
yeah,
I think if Dallas is calling you to make a trade for a draft pick, you
yeah.
send somebody over to scout who they're looking at because there's a good chance that player is going to be Wyatt Johnston in 5 years and scored 10 goals. Was it? Was he at now? It's like 8 goals before his 21st birthday. Something ridiculous.
Um,
You know what it might be?
his
It might
stat
be
line is 7 goals, 4 assists for 11 points in 11 games in this playoffs. I think it is where I know what stat you're talking about. Most goals before the age of before 21, right?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I did see a stat where it was it's like why Johnson has like it's like 7 goals before his 21st birthday. Then the quote
yeah.
tweet was Mitch Marner has 11 goals in 57 playoff games. I'm just like,
Mitch Marner
ah!
for Wyatt Johnston confirmed, Dave? Is that what
Oh
you're
my
saying? Yeah.
God.
I thought you were
Listen,
gonna say it was something like Wyatt Johnston goals scored before you could even like drink in the
drink.
US or
Yeah.
something like that,
No,
right?
it's wild. It's actually
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, don't let the Dallas Stars Jim Nill, man, don't let that guy cook anymore. Somebody take him. Somebody
Buddy's
go.
Gourmet Michelin restaurant. The
Yeah, we
Dallas
got
Stars
Anthony
Michelin
Bourdain
restaurant.
over there. Gordon Ramsay in
First line of
Dallas.
yeah, Bourdain, Ramsey, and
Chef
Bobby
Boyardee.
Flay. Like yeah,
Yeah,
dear God,
no,
man.
but man,
Oh, dude.
I'm having. I know you said it to me before. I'm having a real tough time picking out the flaws in the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
I they are my cup picks. I think I had them as my cup pick going into the playoffs. I think this fully like this series against the Avs has fully solidified. They're not beating the Avs handily. Like the Avs are definitely putting
Other than
up.
last game.
Yeah, okay, sure. But the Avs are definitely they're putting up a fight. Like that is still a team that is they know how to win.
It's a really good
Um
team.
that is a fantastic team. It's crazy because the Dallas Stars might be going through 2 conference finals before they get to the conference finals. They're playing the
And
defending
and
cup
the actual
champs.
conference finals isn't going to be like some weak team either. Like it's going to be a battle and a half too.
Yeah. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, man. I think if they get through the Avs, I'm thinking they're walking right through that one of those two Canadian teams.
I think
I don't I
we're
don't have
gonna
faith.
let's not get ahead of ourselves because we'll talk about the Canadian teams. But
Okay,
I
yeah.
agree with you. Like I'm taking them no matter what.
Yeah.
Those other teams might have something to say about it, but I am leading Stars too. We're bearing
Yeah.
the lead a little bit. We haven't
Yeah,
mentioned
go.
Valeri Nichushkin missed last game and he's going to miss the next 6 months. Entered I don't want to use the wrong wording here, but it was stage 3 of the player assistance program is what he's entered.
I think it
We don't
was
really know specifics.
I think it's substance and control abuse, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. I believe
yes,
that's what it's called.
substance and control abuse program. So we don't know the specifics. Doesn't really matter here. Sucks for him, sucks for his team. Wish him the best in recovery. And obviously a huge blow to the Avs, who also lost Devon Taves going into that game last night. Two huge blows to the team. And
Mhm.
I think Nichushkin had scored in, I think it was every single playoff game up until that last one. So
He was on a heater. He
yeah,
especially in
he
the
had
first
nine
round
goals. Yeah.
against the Knights, he was electric. And if it's unfortunate the way that it had to come to an end for him. And you know, that could also be the end that we see of Devon Taves for the rest of this playoff series. Like they're down 3-1. Like it takes one more game to knock them out. I don't
Yeah.
know what his timeline for recovery is either, but yeah, I mean the
If they're
Avs.
missing Tays in the next game, I think I've got Stars to wrap it up then, right?
I would agree with you. I think I've got
And I
stars
wouldn't have
and
guessed 5 games before the series. I would have
no,
told you 6 or 7. I probably would have
uh,
leaned 7, honestly.
I almost nailed on 7 games as soon as this matchup was. I was like, this is gonna be the war, like if round one for the Stars was a war, this is going to be war part two, like another brick in the
Yeah,
wall, basically. Like, man, but
yeah.
it is unfortunate how it does go sometimes.
Okay. Canadian series, Canucks, Oilers. Canucks are up 2-1. I did not give the Canucks enough credit. I didn't think they would be up 2-1. I know it's still early in the
Yeah, I didn't
series.
give
Uh,
Arthur Shelovs enough credit. I
bro,
thought,
this guy, okay, I know I said Ryan Johnston might be my favorite playoff story. I am a fan of Artur Silovs for life. He could let in 4 goals on his next 4 shots for the next 3 games, and I'm still gonna be a fan of this guy for life. I love that dude. Put him on my team any day.
yeah,
Just a great story.
what a story. 100%. I definitely counted out the Vancouver Canucks. Still not a fan of them, but I'm here's the thing, I'm also not a fan of the I love McDavid, I love Draisaitl. Just not a fan of either team. But here's the thing, they do play some entertaining ass hockey. They
Dude, oh
hate
my
each
God.
other.
And any game involving the Oilers though is instantly like crazy to watch, right? Like they
Yes,
just play
100%.
fire wagon hockey all the
Yeah.
time. It's
And
insane. McDavid and Drysdale play half the game,
how
right?
crazy is it? How crazy is it when you get one fire wagon team in the Oilers going up against another? Just who
Yeah,
knows what you're getting out
yeah.
of the Vancouver Canucks on a night to night basis.
I think what's changing my opinion on the Canucks outside of them like being up in the series, that'll definitely help.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really the original reason that I like this team last year. And didn't understand why it wasn't working. I just like so many of the players individually on the Canucks that I could never understand why it didn't work. And one of my favorites, a guy that I wanted the Leafs to go after before he even got to Vancouver, is Connor Garland.
Oh, I thought you were
He's
gonna say
been a
Brock
great.
Besser.
Well, Brock Besser is that's Brian's guy. That's Brian's
That
guy
is
through and
Brian's guy.
through. But like I've said, there's so many guys on that team that I could talk about that I like. And man, do we look stupid as Leaf fans saying, we don't need Nikita Zadorov. That guy is he brings it all. He
He
scores.
definitely
He hit
does.
like he even has great quotes. Like
There,
we
listen,
missed the
there is
mark
a
on that one. I
reason.
don't know if he would have ever been traded to Toronto because it sounds like
Yeah,
we had a different price, but
yes.
man, that's a tough one.
I was just about to say in a different world, man, that should have been the like if other circumstances happened, that
And
should
we
have been the guy
tried.
that the Leafs targeted.
Yeah,
I
they still
definitely
tried.
believe that they tried. I know for a fact Brad Treliving knew what he had in Nikita Zadorov.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate we couldn't get him. Man, is has he fit in quite well on that
yeah.
Canucks blue line.
Dakota Joshua, that's another guy Leaf fans
Great.
might
Yeah.
come to hate while loving because
Yeah.
yeah,
He
former
looks
former Leaf
great.
pick traded him to the Blues. Can't remember what for honestly. But yeah, he's insane. He's gonna
Dmitry
get paid this
Timashov,
summer.
maybe.
Oh no, no, hey, no disrespect on my boy Dmitry Timashov, one of my favorite Leafs ever. No, yeah, no, Timashov went to the Isles. Come on. I know my
Did he?
Timashov
Okay, he
history.
did. He
Yeah,
did.
he did, he did.
Who was it? Who's
Uh,
buddy that we sent to the Blues?
I don't know, dude. I well,
What did we got
we
from the Blues?
sent
Was it
Joshua.
Nikita? Was it Soshnikov that we got back?
No, Soshnikov we sent to the Blues as well,
Oh
but different deal. I don't know. I don't
man,
know. Anyways, the story of this series is goaltending as well, right? Like
yeah.
that is the difference here. Shelovs has been as lights out as he can be for the circumstances. Skinner has been the lights have never
He
turned
looks
off.
he
Okay.
looks pretty skinny right now. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuart Skinny for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. I they're going Calvin Pickard next game. And I think honestly I would feel more confident Calvin Pickard. It's so tough for Skinner because I think on the whole people think he has promise and he showed promise. Don't know what it is with him that just the switch turns off, and they don't seem to be able to get him back reeled in. So I don't know. I and also like just the Oilers aren't getting their secondary scoring that was part of the new promise with the team this year.
yeah.
Henrique has been out, so I think that's a tough one too. But they need more than just like
You
their
need
5 best guys, right? They
Evander
just
Kane
do.
to step up here. I think he only
You
has
can't.
4 points
Yeah,
in 10
yeah.
games, I think, or
And as much as we like got on the Leafs for lack of power play scoring and scoring in general, but you also can't win games by just scoring power play goals, and that seems like what the Oilers have been trying to do. Yeah,
especially as like when you go deeper into series, like they come fewer and fewer and far between. So they do need to work on their 5-on-5 play, or this is going to be another disappointing year for the Oilers fan base. I still have my faith though in the Oilers. I'm still going to say Oilers in I'm going to say 7. I will give benefit of the doubt to the Canucks. I Yeah, I don't know when the Arturs Shilovs train is gonna stop. It could very well stop immediately. It could just not. Like we have no idea. So we'll see, right? But I'm gonna say this. I'm less like I don't really care who comes out of this series if I'm being completely honest. I would like to see McDavid
Yeah,
come through. I also wouldn't hate the Vancouver Canucks coming through. Genuinely don't think either of these teams really hold the candle to the Dallas Stars, like who should be winning their series as well. So it's going to be an uphill battle for one of these two teams to then go forward and try and take on that
yeah.
Stars team, basically.
I think between the two, I'm probably am leaning Vancouver now. I think like you, this is going to be that crazy series that goes 7. And I think why I would give Vancouver a fighting chance against Dallas is simply because they seem to have that magic,
Yeah,
that
maybe.
indispensable magic that
That
we
je
can't really
ne
put our
sais
hands
quoi.
on. Je ne sais quoi, the Vancouver je ne sais quoi. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they do. They just have it.
They
So
do. They do look like they do.
if that magic doesn't run out, then who knows where once again, like with the Sea Love story, it's also the Canucks story in general. They got
Yeah.
to be one of the most underdog number one seeded teams in a while, right? Like we forget
Yeah.
that they won the division, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it when we talk about them, right? They feel like an underdog story.
You're right.
Yeah. So while you were talking there, I saw this scroll by it's like Mikhail Grabowski tweeted out a video of him doing like physical rehab and stuff, and he's like, "Who's ready for a comeback?" Hashtag Leafs forever. I'm ready for the Grabo signing. Let's go get Grabo back on the team.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Quick note: Easton Cowan ripping it up, 12 points in 3 games. 32 thoughts. Frege mentioned today, guy that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Maxim Siplikov. He's making a decision soon. We'll see if he's a Leaf. And that's it. We'll wrap it up quick here. We got not a lot of time left.
Yeah,
Shout out
you're
Razor. Shout out.
yeah.
What jersey we got in today, Dave?
I'm gonna say let's do Wyatt Johnson, number 20,
Yeah,
Wyatt Johnson
it's a really
jersey.
good jersey. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. Yeah, Razor NHL Shop, Fubo. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.